part 1, I discussed the case of Micah and James Stauffer and their internationally adoptive child, detailing the likely conditions of where the child came from and how during and after the adoption, actions by the Stauffers may have contributed to further complications in regards to the child's well-being. In this section, I want to go through the bigger issue of, quote, rehoming, unquote, children. You might be surprised that there are dedicated Facebook groups and chat forums where people can advertise unwanted children to prospective adoptive parents. There are also pageant-like fashion shows where children are paraded up and down a catwalk in front of prospective parents who may step forward and express a wish to adopt the child that they've just seen walk up and down. Like a dog show. First, I want to go into the advertising children for, quote, rehoming, unquote, online, and for this I will be reading from the Reuter report on this topic. When a Liberian girl proves too much for her parents, they advertise her online and give her to a couple they've never met. Days later, she goes missing. Kiel, Wisconsin. Todd and Melissa Puchala struggled for more than 2 years to raise Quinta, the troubled teenager they'd adopted from Liberia. When they decided to give her up, they found new parents to take her in less than 2 days by posting an ad on the internet. Does anybody else just have a blaring siren of bad idea going off at the front of their mind, or is that just me? Nicole and Calvin Eason, an Illinois couple in their 30s, saw the ad and a picture of the smiling 16-year-old. They were eager to take Quita, even though the ad warned that she had been diagnosed with severe health and behavioral problems. In the emails, Nicole Eason assured Melissa Puchala that she could handle the girl. "People that are around me think I'm awesome with kids," Eason wrote. This is a human being they're talking about, not a dog that is looking for a forever home after the owner falls sick. An actual human being. A few weeks later, on October 4th, 2008, the Puchalas drove 6 hours from their Wisconsin home to Westville, Illinois. The handoff took place at the Country Air Mobile Home Park where the Easons lived in a trailer. No attorneys or child welfare officials came with them. The Puchalas simply signed a notarized statement declaring these virtual strangers to be Quinta's guardians. The visit lasted just a few hours. It was the first and the last time the couples would meet. To Melissa Puchala, the Easons seemed wonderful. Had she vetted them more closely, she might have discovered what Reuters would learn. Child welfare authorities had taken away both of Nicole Eason's biological children years earlier. After a sheriff's deputy helped remove the Easons' second child, a newborn baby boy, the deputy wrote in his report that the parents have severe psychiatric problems, as well with violent tendencies. The Easons each had been accused by children they were babysitting of SA, police reports show. They say they did nothing wrong and neither was charged. The only official document attesting to their parenting skills, one reportedly drafted by a social worker who had inspected the Easons' home, was a fake created by the Easons themselves. Quita's first night with the Easons, her new guardians told her to join them in their bed, Quita says today. Nicole slept naked, she says. Within a few days, the Easons stopped responding to Melissa Puchala's attempts to check on Quita, Puchala says. When she called the school that Quita was supposed to attend, an administrator told Puchala that the teenager had never shown up. Quita wasn't at the trailer park either. The Easons had packed up their purple Chevy truck and driven off with her, leaving behind a pile of trash, a pair of blue mattresses, and 2 puppies changed in their yard, authorities later found. Puchalas had rescued Quita from an orphanage in Liberia, brought her to America, and then signed her over to a couple they barely knew. Days later, they had no idea what had become of her. When she arrived in the United States, Quita says she was happy, coming to a nicer place, a safer place. It didn't turn out that way, she says today. It turned into a nightmare. The teenager had been tossed into America's underground market for adopted children, a loose internet network where desperate parents seek new homes for kids they regret adopting. Like Quita, now 21, these children are often the casualties of international adoptions gone sour. Through Yahoo and Facebook groups, parents and others advertise the unwanted children and then pass them to strangers with little or no government scrutiny, sometimes illegally, a Reuters investigation has found. It is a largely lawless marketplace. Often the children are treated as chattel, a legal term that refers to property. and the needs of parents are put ahead of the welfare of the orphans they brought to America. The practice is called private rehoming, a term typically used by owners seeking new homes for their pets. Based on solicitation on one of 8 similar online bulletin boards, the parallels are striking. Let me just read these out. This is what people are saying about children they wish to, quote, rehome, unquote. Born in October of 2000, this handsome boy, Rick, was placed from India a year ago and is obedient and eager to please, one ad for a child read. A woman who said that she is from Nebraska offered an 11-year-old boy she had adopted from Guatemala. I am totally ashamed to say it, but we do truly hate this boy, she wrote in a July 2012 post. I'm going to hold my tongue for a bit. I will say something, I promise, but I'm just going to get through this part first. Another parent advertised a child days after bringing her to America. We adopted an 8-year-old girl from China. Unfortunately, we are now struggling, having been in the home for 5 days. The parent asked that others share the ad with anyone you may think be interested. This is abhorrent. Firstly, they're talking about these children like they're animals. And I already have issues of this way of rehoming animals because this is a stranger on the other end of an internet connection. Do they have enough space for this animal? Do they have access to a cage or a hutch or a tank, and the right sized hutch or cage or tank? These are basic care necessities for pets that can easily go wrong. As well as this, what happens if when the child grows up they come across your ad for them and they see that you state you truly hated them? What is that going to do to them? And on the darker side, when you advertise children in this manner, you make them accessible to undesirables. People will obtain animals to do disgusting, twisted things to them for their own pleasure. And you're treating these children like animals and making them just as easy to access. Let's move on for a moment, we'll put a pin in that. Reuters analysed 5,029 posts from a 5-year period on one internet message board, a Yahoo group. On average, a child was advertised to rehoming there once a week. Most of the children ranged in age from 6 to 14 and had been adopted from abroad, from countries such as Russia and China, Ethiopia and Ukraine. The youngest was 10 months old. Thankfully enough, after learning what Reuters found, Yahoo acted swiftly. Within hours it began shutting down Adopting from Disruption, the 6-year-old bulletin board. A spokeswoman said that the activity in the group violated the company's terms of service agreement. The company subsequently took down 5 other groups that Reuters brought to its attention. A similar forum on Facebook, Way Stations of Love, remains active. I think since this article being written that this particular Facebook group has been made inactive. I can't find it myself, but I did do a search and there are definitely similar ones still active. One called Hand of Help in Adoptions, Waiting Children, says, if you would like to inquire about any of the children that are available, please email, and there's an email address. Now, I don't want to cast any judgment on anybody because, of course, adoption isn't just for 2 men, 2 women, a man and a woman in a committed, happy relationship. I would think that would be ideal for the child themselves, but I'm not saying that single people cannot adopt a child. But it does cause me a little bit of doubt when somebody is posting, "Hi, does anyone know if Australians can adopt a child in need from Ukraine?" And while I'm definitely not saying that simply because he happens to be a single man wanting to adopt a child that there's anything nefarious going on, one of his posts include, "I redacted am from the planet Eeyore Oor. My people are the bird people. We came to Earth many moons ago and we all went our separate directions to try and prosper. I am yet to have my mate return to me. She is a bird people, my people. I have longed for her what feels to be an eternity. Flap your winged flippers and return to me, my love. I need to be with my kind where my heart is, my home." Is that a reference I'm not getting? Because it just reads as not in touch with reality to me. And what's more disturbing is the comment section where somebody says, I need somebody who want to adopt a baby, and other people expressing their interest in adopting. That's just one of the groups that I found, and I was concerned by some of the posts. I'll leave it at that for now. The Reuters investigation found that some children who were adopted and later rehomed have endured severe. Speaking publicly about her experience for the first time, one girl adopted from China and later sent on to a second home said she was made to dig her own grave. Another rehomed child, a Russian girl, recounted how a boy in one house urinated on her after the two had adult activity. She was 13 at the time and was rehomed 3 times in 6 months. Here's some basic statistics that the Reuters found in their report. Reporters identified 261 individual children who were advertised. Participants offered children to others at least 271 times, an average of 1 offer of a child a week. The difference in these numbers shows that some children were offered more than once. The children were living in at least 34 different states at the time they were offered. Most of the children were born abroad, with at least 70% of them coming from overseas, 22% their birth country was unclear, and only 8% were born in the United States. Children were identified to be from at least 23 foreign nations, the top 5 being Ethiopia, Russia, Ukraine, China, and Liberia. Many of the children were described as facing issues. 106 of them had attachment disorders, 25 of them were victims or perpetrators of physical 12 of them were victims or perpetrators of SA, and 9 were involved in both kinds of. However, the numbers of boys to girls were very similar, with 123 being boys and 135 being girls. Herein lies the complication. Giving away a child in America can be surprisingly easy. Legal adoptions must be handled through the courts and prospective parents must be vetted. But there are ways around such oversight. Children can be sent away to new families quickly through a basic power of attorney document, a notarized statement declaring the child to be in the care of another adult. I'll leave the full Reuters report down in the description below if you'd like to read all of it, but I think I've covered all of the basic points. And I think I'll move on to the pageant shows.
First up, we have Alicia. Alicia is a very special and very sweet young lady who is looking for her forever family.
Again, I feel like I have to say that we're talking about children. I suppose that these matching events are an improvement to the advertising children online because the child gets to meet their potential parent before being shipped off to them. But it feels too casual. One potential parent says, if something happens, then we'll pursue it, and if not, no big deal. Nothing gained, nothing lost. It is a big deal to these kids. These kids are well aware that they're basically selling themselves. They have a few hours to show their best, most positive traits in order to attract a potential parent. And I know I'm saying this and it sounds absurd, but that's what they're doing. And it turns out that the kid he was talking about went home with him 2 weeks after they met at the event, and 6 months after that, it didn't work out. The child was taken in for a trial period. That was an air quote. I feel like these events have the right idea in mind, but the execution is terrible. The lack of process involved basically means that these children are under immense pressure to sell themselves and their best qualities to be picked. Which is really horrible to say. I think with a few tweaks, this could be a really good idea. First, I think that every single potential adoptive parent attending should be vetted beforehand. Not an open, come and look at these children, walk up and down, but people who have been properly investigated, they are suitable to look after children, and they should be given basic files about the children, anonymously of course, in order to inform them about potential needs the children may have. And then they have the idea of what kind of children they'll be looking at and what kind of care they will need. With that all out of the way, they can all come to the event, well assured that every single adult there has been vetted and has an idea of what these children will need, and there won't be a catwalk. It will be bonding activities and games to get to know the children, and it won't be a one-time deal. They won't come, see a child, talk to them for a few hours, and then take them home in a couple of weeks. Rather than that, if a potential adoptive parent is interested in a particular child and wants to get to know them better, they can arrange supervised visits alongside a qualified social worker that can happen maybe once a week, once every couple of weeks, until they've gotten to know the child and the child has gotten to know them better. And then they can make a decision as to whether or not they feel they can take care of the child. They could even, at some point, once it's progressed even further, have one-night stay visits at the potential adoptive parent's home so they get used to the setting, and they can bring along any other children in the home to these meetings so the child can get to know the other children. I feel like this is a much more productive way of going about trying to, I hate the word, quote, rehome, unquote, a child, allowing both the potential adoptive parent and the potential adoptive child time to get to know each other and know more about both of their situations and any other children that may be involved, and therefore it won't turn out to be, this was a mistake 6 months later. They would already have a good grasp of what the child is like and if they are compatible to live together. It's just such an easier way of doing things. I understand that it's a much longer process, but it ensures the well-being of both the child and the potential adoptive parent, ensuring that the child doesn't have to go through heartbreak after heartbreak of trying to find a forever home, and it's much better for the adoptive parent to have a good idea of what they will be dealing with in their own home. What do you guys think? Do you think that this pageant-esque style form of trying to get children adoptive is better or as equally as bad as advertising children on Facebook groups? I personally think the idea of getting to see the child beforehand and at least getting a few hours with them is better than simply having them be dropped off. But also, again, there's the problem where we're treating children like they are show horses, as if they are products to be obtained, bought, or traded. Leave your thoughts down in the description below. I hope you guys found this video informative and slightly entertaining. I know it was a pretty dark topic, and for the first part I was just reading off the Reuters investigation article. I did this so that I could represent their findings accurately instead of wording it my own way. I feel like the article did a good job of really putting forward the problem. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.